Hello, everyone. My name is Jacob Villont. I am the UN Security Ambassador to the United Nations on behalf of the United States government, talking about our recent developments with the Republic of Zamunda and what we've been able to achieve through peaceful negotiations with their authorities. In light of rising tensions between our two nations, in light of the nation of Zamunda's development as a new republic in the world with all of our other fellow nations, we both took it upon ourselves to successfully achieve diplomatic relations between the two nations and reach an agreement on their developing nuclear program that we discovered, not just through our own operations, but also through discussions with the Zamunda government. They disclosed to us that this is in fact true. And we've been able to circumvent any potential hostilities or, rising tension by successfully working out these negotiations and reaching an agreement with both of our countries to see if we could circumvent this type of issue with each other. The leader of Zamunda, Sam Grimmick, we and her policy team had a long discussion disclosing the information and intelligence the United States has been able to gain in pursuit of our new neighbors who have taken a part of the small piece of southern Texas along the what is now called the Gulf of America, but what is formerly called the Gulf of Mexico. And in our discussions, we talked a lot about the trade agreements that Mexico and China had during their recent developments and negotiations with those two nations, and the conversations about the supplies and resources that the Mexican government was giving to Zamunda and the Chinese researchers and intelligence operatives that were helping develop these facilities on Zamunda's behalf and on the behalf of both developing nations, both of the nations and their developing relations with one another. As a way of, within their own hearts and minds, pursuing mutual prosperity, but however, it came at the expense of the United States of America, as we need to look out for our own security interests. And we need to be able to see, if our own neighbors are going to be developing arsenals that are going to be threatening to the United States of America. I mean, it's within our national security to pursue any information about said operations. Although there was certainly some first issues with one another as we sought to pursue a shared goal of peace throughout the world. There was some sharp words to be exchanged about the strong feelings that both nations have about this topic. But through our discussions, we've been able to successfully achieve a replacement for their nuclear development. We've decided that an alternative green energy plan, building up their solar, their wind, their hydropower, will be an excellent replacement, not just to give these Zamunda people their own energy, especially efficiently and independently, but to also make sure that the rest of the world, including the United States of America, is safe from any weapons of mass destruction or nuclear adjacent weaponry that any nation may be developing. It seems to be that within the rest of the interest of the world and our own, including our own interest, that allowing for these nuclear developments would be suboptimal at best. So after our achieved negotiations, after replacing the nuclear energy facilities with subsidization of alternative clean energy, substitutes, we have successfully been able to reach an agreement between both nations, and I feel as though now would be a good time to take questions. So, how about you? Let's start with you.
Hi, yeah. How do you expect the Zamunda authorities to react to this new U.S. decision?
We trust that the Zamunda will act within good faith interest within both of our nations. And we both confidently reached an agreement that both of these things, are both of our achieved goals were met, and that we've come to a resolution that benefits both parties. Yeah. Let's do another question with you. Sure.
Hello, what gives the U.S. the right to impose these measures on
Yeah.
Zamunda?
We see the security and prosperity of the entire world, frankly, on the docket of this discussion. And while certain actors could be making such gestures and making such suggestions to our government, we feel as though that the security and peace of the world is better off when we achieve these results than what may have originally seemed as allowing other nations to develop what may seem as a security, but is ultimately going to keep the rest of us not so safe. In other words, the United States of America cannot pursue its own successful nuclear disarmament. Stepping away from that type of development into something safer without making sure that, any potential adversaries and maybe even sometimes our allies don't necessarily have these resources that could be a danger to others. And let's do one more question with you. Sure.
What conditions would have to be met for the U.S. to reconsider their impositions?
Well, it's most likely possible that these things will stay within the purview. These things will stay as they are. We don't really see anything changing coming up or any unexpected surprises. Both of our nations seem to have very, happily reached this agreement and in order, to have, as I was saying, the whole world be safer, right? Both of our nations prosper in a more meaningful way, in a safer way than allowing this type of security, that or at least what we think is security with all these nations, but is actually going to hurt us potentially in the long run. So we don't see the Zamunda people retracting from their agreements, and we think that this will be carried out to the full extent of our achievements. This is considered a success in both of our eyes. So thank you so much for everyone, listening and watching. And thank you so much for your questions. And I believe we'll just leave it at that. Thank you.